What's up, guys? Brett here, and I'm back taking a look at more news from Battle Brothers Warriors of the North DLC. Okay, so now we get more information on the Barbarians. I haven't read through it yet. I wanted you guys to get my first impressions, and I'm pretty excited because I think just doing like a really quick skim here, I saw things that I felt like are going to confirm how I felt in terms of like their tiers, kind of some of my speculations from the previous videos. And let's go ahead and get into it. So following the introduction of the Barbarian faction in Part 1, and we're going to go back and look at Part 1 because I think there's some valuable information in there that'll tie into this. So this week we'll take a look at the first 3 of their unit types and some general combat mechanics, all part of the upcoming Warriors of the North DLC, of course. As always, keep in mind that things are still in development and may change. With that said, let's delve in. So only 3 of the types. I guess that's leaving us to assume there are at least 4, maybe 5. The wording makes me think it's at least 5, but it could be 4. So the first and presumably the lowest tier is going to be thralls. So northern barbarians are not born free, but as thralls in servitude to their elders and ultimately their tribe. They have no say on tribal matters, and they possess only what they can carry. On occasion, members of their tribes are also accepted into thraldom, either peacefully or after being captured in battle. It is expected that a thrall seek the respect of their master, their ancestors, and the tribe as a whole, and ultimately earn their status as a free man or woman. Indeed, young folk are considered to have reached adulthood as they become free, and to have them earn their place and stay in the tribe. One way to do so, but not the only one, is to prove their worth in battle. Okay? You'll see here they're lightly armored to no armor, and they're using like the lowest tier weapons. Basic spear. This looks like a bear paw attached to a stick. That's pretty funny. Okay, so thralls are light and nimble infantry of the barbarian tribes, clad only in furs and sometimes with nothing but war paint on their bare chests, armed either with weapons made from readily available materials like bone or looted from the battlefield. They rely on ferociously overwhelming the enemy. They're quick and agile, making ample use of the adrenaline skill. That's very important. That's something I wanted to go over as well. And having both the anticipation and dodge perks make them harder to hit, at least until they're exhausted and after a couple of rounds. Okay, so they actually make use of their light armor. Very good. So it's not going to be easy to shoot them from a distance, but when you hit them, you'll probably just one-shot them. But between dodge and anticipation, they're going to be very hard to skirmish down easily. And then adrenaline makes it so that, you know, they'll charge in, they'll meet your front lines, and then normally you have a chance to kind of mix it up with them and go first, but they're not going to let you do that. They're going to pop adrenaline, and they're going to go first. So there may be scenarios where they get to attack you 2 times in a row, their entire, army, and you just have to sit there and take it if you don't have adrenaline yourself. Interesting. Like all barbarian infantry, thralls have a very physical combat style of wrestling with the enemy, throwing their weight against them, and jostling to put their opponent out of balance. Their barbarian wrath perks, that's a new one, makes them fight even harder as they get hit, and the next time they land a hit of their own, they confer a status effect, which for 1 turn knocks their target out of balance to lower their damage and defense until they have regained their footing. Interesting. So this may be an unlockable perk for our brothers as well. Maybe you have to have the barbarian background or the raider background to make this available, but maybe not. But it seems pretty good. So you start taking damage. If you're a tanky character, this may make for dueling even easier. Just a way of debuffing, kind of like Overwhelm. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so the next tier is Reavers. Let's check these guys out. And to me, these are starting to look more like Orc Young. And I was very, in my speculations, I was thinking these were going to be very similar to the tiers that Orcs have. And what I'm looking at right now is kind of like Orc Young, Orc Warriors. But it's their perks and their unique like skills and things that are going to make them very different, as well as their weapons. So Reavers are the medium infantry of the barbarian tribes. They're battle-hardened freemen, yet not necessarily warriors by trade. Some may be bloodthirsty veterans of many battles that seek immortality through their deeds on the battlefield, and have tattoos on their skin tell the saga of their life. Others are merely hunters or craftsmen that join with the rest of the tribe to raid and ensure their survival in the upcoming winter. See, this is making me wonder whether or not they'll add more cosmetics to the barber in the game, whether or not we'll get more options for tattoos. Like, look at this guy. He's got like a ridiculous head tattoo, and I'm seeing what may be some new faces. You see here they have some kind of cool, some paint here and here as well. So a lot of like face tattoos. I'm wondering if we'll be able to have those ourselves, if we'll have access to that, or if that's unique to the barbarians. So Reavers are often armed with armor and weapons that have been passed down through generations and show signs of wear, but may also have claimed equipment in duels that settle disputes. Like thralls, they have an offensive and nimble combat style, but backed up with experience and skill. Like all barbarians, they don't fear death the same as southern folk do, and so are not easily broken. That's a big point about them as well that's worth knowing. They're roughly comparable to brigand raiders, but maybe more or less of a challenge depending on your approach. Yeah, I can definitely see that. If they're able to dodge ranged fire and then get into combat, but they're still very fast and they pierce armor. So one of the things that they've noted about their weapons is that they have a higher value that bypasses armor. So, I mean, I could see them being very difficult at certain stages in the game, depending on your build. Spear wall might just be the ticket for fighting these guys. If you have a spear wall that's not broken and a shield wall, you should be able to hold these dudes back just as easily as you could any other unit. That's my like suggestion at the moment. Spear wall is so solid early game, and I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be very effective against these units. Alright, so champions. Warriors who show exceptional skill on the battlefield are said to be blessed by the ancestors, and those who also have impressive victories to show are said to eventually take a place beside the ancestors in the afterlife to watch over the tribe. These champions of the ancestors are the heavy infantry of the barbarians, and they wear weighty metal armor and heavy two-handed weapons, trophies from vanquished foes and gifts from invested elders. Unlike thralls and reavers, champions rely on their heavy armor for defense. They can shrug off status effects more easily and excel even when fighting against several opponents at once. Tougher enemies than any brigand, other than perhaps brigand leaders. They are mid to late game opponents. So interesting if they only come in two-handed variants. That's good to know. They shrug off status effects, very similar to orc warriors, except you could probably push these dudes around and knock them back. That would be worth knowing. They probably have Battle Forged, I would imagine. That probably takes advantage of their heavy armor and the way that Nimble and Anticipation takes advantage of the Reavers and the Thralls' lighter armor. And I imagine they all have Anticipation and this Barbarian, how do they refer to it, this perk? Barbarian Wrath. So I imagine they all have that. Very interesting. So the tattoos. They mentioned in one of the previous updates that the tattoos may also be a sort of like magical ward against physical damage. And I think that may come into play probably on all levels of the barbarian units. So you see here they have, they have tattoos obviously, but we're going to have to see if that actually becomes a mechanic or if that's just a little bit of fluff they're doing to, kind of make them sound cooler. But it made it sound like they were going to be some sort of resistance to damage. And they also have higher morale. So that's something that's very important to keep in mind. When I was fighting the giant orc war camps in my latest playthrough, as many fighting orcs in the 30s, where they're easily able to overwhelm you. The only way to take those fights and to beat them without losing brothers is to hyper focus down orcs and get the kills so that you can eventually break their morale. If you're not able to break them in that way and get maybe the last 5 or 6 orcs, usually warriors, to run away, you're going to have a hard time. Usually by the time the orc war chief or the warlord gets into combat, he's usually about broken by the time I'm in one of those fights. And if he wasn't, there's very little chance that I could get out of a fight like that without losing someone. Um, but I can already see a late game fight where, maybe there's a couple of thralls, mini reavers, a ton of champions, and then, some even higher level barbarian like leadership type units, or even some, magic users, and you just can't break them, and you have to basically kill them to the last man. I think that's what's going to ultimately make this enemy a pretty scary one. So guys, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I do want to talk briefly about my Battle Brothers series. I know I haven't posted a video on that in about a week or so, and that's because, after the Black Monolith boss fight, which I barely, managed to beat and scrape out of, I've been trying to do it in my free time and, achieve a better result, but it's such a heavy time sink. It's been super difficult to do. I haven't beaten it since that time I beat it on camera for you guys. But the the main problem is it's such a long fight, especially in the early portions of it, that I basically have to spend 20 to 25 minutes figuring out whether or not I even have a chance. And then by that time, I just have to either restart, go through the motions, and see if I can pull something out. It takes a long time to do, and I'm starting to lean towards, you know, accepting the result of that battle, and then trying to go ahead and move forward with the Witch's Hut, and maybe even spending a few episodes trying to uh, rebuild our company. So that's kind of where my head's at right now. Let me know in the comment section what you think. If you think I should just try and do the Witch's Hut, or if I should give it a few more days of trying the Black Monolith fight. There's such high variables. I have learned things by doing it so many times. I think I have better insight on the battle. However, I just don't know if it's worth the time, and I would rather keep making videos for y'all than keep trying to, do something in my free time that may end up taking 10 hours to do. So anyway, guys, y'all have a good day. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, my name is Brett, and my channel is Good Talk Gaming, and I hope you're as excited for the Warriors of the North DLC as I am. And I hope you stick around for next week when we get some more news, hopefully. All right, guys, take care.